In this presentation, we will continue on with our comprehensive problem, this time recorded journal entries related to the payment of expenses. We will record expenses for utilities, the phone, and wages. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info. So we'll start with 128. We're going to post this to the general journal. We're going to journalize it to the general journal and then post it to the general ledger, and that'll be used to, of course, create the trial balance. Okay, so we've got paid the utility bill, $1,300. We're going to consider these just kind of like at the end of the month. We're paying our bills. We're going to assume we're paying these with cash here. So we're going to pay these with cash at the end of the month. And therefore, our first question is cash affected? We're going to say, yeah, we paid cash. Cash is a debit balance. We're going to make it go down by doing the opposite thing to it, a credit. So I'm going to copy cash, right-click on cash in L5 and copy. I'm going to put that on the bottom. Notice I'm working with cash first. We're working with cash first just because it's easier for us to know which way it's going to go, debit or credit. Right-click and paste 1, 2, 3. Why is it easier? Because we've worked with it a lot of times. As opposed to expenses, which we don't see quite as often. So we probably know which way the expenses are going because there's a lot of them as well. But cash is probably the account we know best. So we're going to go back to the Home tab. This is probably done for you already, but I'm going to increase the indenting by going to the Alignment, Increase Indenting. The amount will be in the credit side. We're going to put the utility negative 1,300. So negative 1300. Then we're going to debit something for that same amount. I'm going to use a little formula to do so, a negative of that number. Taking that number, flipping the sign. Then we just need to know what that debit account will be. It's going to be something related to utilities. If we have a trial balance, which is nice to have at any time, even if you're not working on the problem specific to that trial balance, any trial balance will give you an idea of what order the accounts are and what type of accounts are. So if we look through this and look for something related to utilities, then we can see it's down here on the income statement, utilities expense. So it will be an expense. Expenses all have debit balances. They go up in the debit direction. Notice this differs than what some of the things we saw before, like prepaid. We paid for insurance. We put that into prepaid insurance. And we bought equipment and we put that into equipment. Why are we expensing this now? Because we usually pay the utility bill as we consume it on a month-to-month basis. And therefore, when we paid it is often pretty close to the point in time that we actually consumed the utility in order to help generate revenue, and therefore we should expense it at this time in accordance with the matching principle, not because we're paying it now, but because we consumed the utility at this time. So we're going to copy the utilities expense. Note that expenses always go up in the debit direction, almost always, pretty much. Always exceptions. So then we're going to go here to H14, right-click and paste 1, 2, 3. So there's our first of 3 journal entries, and let's go ahead and go through all of them so that we can freeze the panes at one time and post them all at one time. So I'm going to go to the next one now. I'm going to skip line 128, similar transaction for the phone bill. Note also we could record these all in one journal entry. I think it's easier to break them out. If we do it in practice, they would be separate because we would actually physically be writing a check possibly, and therefore would have 3 different transactions. But the result would be the same. We could credit cash and debit the expenses for the 3 expense accounts. The same effect would be on our books in terms of just the record keeping. Okay, so this time we're going to play with cash. So cash is affected once again. Cash is a debit balance. We're going to make it go down by doing the opposite thing to it, which is a credit. Right-click and copy that cash. Going down, we're going to put it on the bottom of the date. So we are in H18. Right-click and paste 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to indent, which is probably done for you already. Go into the Home tab, Alignment Group, and increase the indentation. Then we're going to say that we are in the credit side, and the amount then will be, for the telephone, negative 1100. We're going to debit something for that same amount. I'm going to say negative of this number with a nice little formula. And it's the same thing for telephone expense. If we have it here, we can see telephone expense. It's in the expense area. Why are we expensing it? Not because we paid it, but because we consumed the telephone usage to help generate revenue in this time period and happen to be paying it at that same point in time rather than paying it in the future or sometime in the past. So I'm going to copy that. We're going to paste that in H17, right click and paste 123. Now we'll do one more of these expenses on 128. This being related to wages. Now note here, we're not going through a payroll transaction. We're just going to post wages as if it was a simple transaction, as if we didn't have to deal with payroll taxes and whatnot. Well, we can deal with payroll taxes at a later time. We just want to note and see the simple transaction for wages. So again, we're not going to go through withholdings or anything. In practice, payroll is a complex process in and of itself. We can have a whole comprehensive problem on payroll. But we want to report the importance of payroll here as an expense. So if before all the point in time when we had all this bureaucracy on us having to report payroll, we just made a deal of, we're going to pay these people $5,000 at the end of the month, and we shook hands on it and we're just going to pay them, it would be as easy as any other transaction if it weren't for all the withholdings and whatnot, which means is cash affected? Yeah, cash is going to go down. Here's cash. We're going to make it go down, doing the opposite thing to it, a credit. So I'm going to right click on cash and copy. We're going to put that on the bottom of the journal entry. So we are in H21, right click and paste 123. Going to indent that, go into the Home tab, Alignment, Increase Indenting. Then we're going to be in the credit side in cell J21 where we say negative 5,000. Then we'll debit something for the 5,000. I'm going to do that with a little formula, which is negative of that number. Taking that number, flipping the sign for the debit side. Then we just need to know what account that should be going to. And of course, it's wages expense. So it's another expense account that we have for the wages. Why are we debiting it to an expense account? Not because we're paying it necessarily, but because we used, paid or consumed the service of wages during this time period. So we're going to copy that wages expense. And we're going to put that in H20, right click and paste 123. So here's going to be our 3 journal entries that we need to record now. Now, because it's a little confusing because we got these 3, oftentimes I like to make them a different color. So I'm gonna make that. This is the one I want to record first, and so I don't get it all mixed up with all the others. I'm going to highlight it or select it, and then right click and then kind of highlight it, and I'll make it a different color. I'm going to make it green because that's the one I'm working on. When I'm working on stuff, I make it green. Make it that green. There it is. Okay, so then we're going to go and post this. To post it, we'll freeze the panes. So I'm going to scroll to the right so that we have G flush. Then I'm going to go all the way to the top, put my cursor in K1, and then go to the View tab, Windows group, freeze the panes, freeze panes. Okay, so then we're going to post utilities first. So utilities is way down here. Same order from the trial balance here as on the general ledger. So it's going to be way to the right on the GL. Same order. We've got the assets, we've got the liabilities, we've got the equity. Then we have the expenses. We're looking for that utilities expense, which is going to be way to the end. Here it is in AI 12. So we want to actually be on AI 15. We're in AI 15. And we can see it side by side here, which is nice because of the frozen panes. Okay, so we're going to say this equals and point to that 1,300, bringing the balance from 0 up to 1,300. Then we'll put our cursor right to the left of those frozen panes and scroll right, and it'll pop back over to where we want to be. We can see that the utilities is going up. We can see the balance, we're out of balance by the utilities, and we can see that net income went down. 27,000 minus the 13 went down. This isn't net loss, this is revenue minus expenses. Excel sees it as a negative number. We see it as a credit for the uses of debits and credits. Credits being kind of good on the income statements. Credits winning, revenue beating expenses by 25,700. Then we've got the payable or the cash. No, we're on the green one. See, that's why we made it green. So here's the cash one. So we go up to the top. Here's cash on the trial balance. Here it is on the general ledger. We want to be on the credit side. We're here in P16, where we will say equals. Point to the cash. We're doing the opposite thing to it. 45,000 debit going down by 1,300 to 43,007. That amount then also on the trial balance. Scrolling down, we see we're back in balance. What was the effect? Expenses increased and cash decreased. Net income then going down. Total equity going down. Total equity following whatever happens to net income. So now I'm going to unselect these or ungreen them and then green these so that we're beyond those. Now, if we right click and go to the, you may not have this little green icon there. If you don't, you can go, or the blue, want to make it blue again. We can go to this little color wheel, and I'll go to the standard colors, and it's this one right here. That's one way to do it. Or you can use the paintbrush feature. And now notice this one's indented, so if I paintbrush, it'll have to paintbrush the indentation. So if I copy this whole thing, I want it to look like this exactly, and then go to the Home tab and go to the clipboard and paintbrush it. Then it'll paintbrush both the color and the format. And because this format's just the same, meaning this is indented, it should do that as well. So then I'm going to highlight this one. I'm going to make it green. I'm going to select this one, right click, and make it green. And there we go. So now we're working on this one. So here's the telephone. Here's the telephone. It's our last one on the trial balance. And therefore it's going to be the last one on the general ledger. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the right until I don't see any more accounts because it's the last one. And there it is. So we want to be on the debit side in AM15. Within AM15, we'll say equals and point to that 1,100, bringing the balance up from 0 by 1,100 to 1,100. We'll go right to the left of the frozen screens and click right, popping back over to where we want to be on the trial balance. And we can see that we have that 1,100 here. We're out of balance by that. Net income went down by that as well. So now we're going to have the expense or the cash. Here's the cash we want to record. Here's the cash account, our first account. We want to be on the credit side. We're in cell P17. Within P17, we're going to say equals. Point to that 1,100, bringing the 43,700 down by 1,100 to 42,600. That amount then also on the trial balance, putting us back in balance. And there we go, 24,600 income, not loss. That's revenue minus expenses. Then I'm going to ungreen this, so we'll select it, right click, hit the little bucket, and I'm going to ungreen it this way then, or make it blue. So we'll ungreen it or make it blue, however you'd like to. Probably we're doing both of those things. And then we're going to make this one green. I'm going to select this one, right click it, and we're going to select the bucket and make that one green, which we probably don't need to do because it's the last one. And so we're back to the normal process of just working on the last one. So here's wages expense. Here's wages expense on the trial balance. It's our first expense account, second income statement account. It's going to be in the same order on the GL. So here's our assets, here's our liabilities, here's our equity, here's our revenue and expenses. Scrolling up, wages expense right there. We're in AI 9. AI9, debit side, wages expense. We're going to say equals. Scroll down just a bit, point to that 5,000. That's what we want to pick up and enter. So there we have it, 0, going up by 5,000 to 5,000. If we go right to the left of the frozen panes and click right, it'll pop back over to the trial balance where we want to be. We see the 5,000 here increasing the expense, putting us out of balance by 5,000, bringing net income down by that 5,000. Note that the wages is often going to be the larger component of a company's expenses, especially a service company. A service company is going to spend probably a lot of their expenses on wages. Then we have the cash. So cash is up top, first account on the trial balance. First account on the general ledger. We're in the credit side. We're in cell P18 where we say equals. Point to this 5,000. Bringing the 42,600 down by 5,000 to 37,600. That 37,600 also found on the trial balance. We scroll down, we are back in balance. We can see that these expenses are all much the same. Note the expense accounts go up with debits. The expenses only go up, meaning utility bills, we pay them, they don't pay us. Telephone bills, we pay them, they don't pay us. Employees, we pay them, they don't pay us. These are accounts that only go in one direction, typically up in the debit direction. The effect of them going up in the debit direction is to bring net income down. The effect of net income going down is to bring total equity down. Okay, so I'm gonna unblue this, or I'm gonna ungreen it and make it blue, and that is it. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info.